Take two. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am your girl, Molinda Jae, and as promised, I am here to talk about the Murdaugh series that had premiered on Netflix on the 22nd of February. Yes, and I finally got my notes all condensed into like at least about 10 pages, but I promise you, before then it was about 20 pages. So because I had questions. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to this review. Okay. All right. So we have the Murdaughs here. And the Netflix documentary, it was called The Murdaugh Red Rums. If you don't know what red rum is, it's just basically the M word spelled backward, okay? And courtesy of the Pascal Show, shouts out to him coming up with that. Okay, within episode 1, because there are 3 episodes of this limited series on Netflix, just like how the other documentaries was presented that I've seen was just 3. It was just 3 episodes. Okay. All right, so episode 1, it was called Where is Mallory? And it begins with the introduction of the people who were involved in the incident that took place on February of 2019. Far as like the 6 people that were there and were able to was able to live and also tell their stories now, as well as their family members. So, okay, we're gonna start off with the couples first because I have everybody divided up into sections. That's just how I roll. Okay, so the couples, the first ones was Anthony and Mallory. Okay, Anthony and Mallory were a couple. They started dating New Year's. Well, they made it official New Year's. And they were basically in their honeymoon stage before the incident had happened, unfortunately. So it sounded like they had just became official that same year of 2019 because they were best friends for so long. And I mean like so long, I mean like childhood friends all the way back to probably like pre-K age. Okay. All right. And of course with Anthony, the how Anthony knew Mallory before they became official was that his sister was friends with Mallory. They were best friends. And then before they became official, Anthony was like that party guy. Okay. All right, next. Oh, let me see. And also another tidbit, Anthony's dad was the one that helped build Mallory's family home. Okay, so I thought that was a pretty well-rounded thing to do. I love when people just like come together and build from one another. So Anthony's parents are Keith and Beverly Cook. Okay, and they were the first at the scene when the boating incident had happened, but the mother, which was Beverly, excuse me, Anthony's mom, Beverly, she was the one that stated that she didn't want to be the one to make the call. Even though she had her number, she didn't want to make the call. Okay, and well done with that. Okay, she put that totally into the officer's hand, but when we later learned that no phone call was made, and possibly till really later on, of them pronouncing that their daughter is missing from the incident. All right, next we have on the couple list, we have Connor, who is the first cousin of Anthony. and his girlfriend Mallory. I mean, not Mallory. Oh my gosh, because all the girls' names is an M. His girlfriend name was Molly. Okay, so Molly and Mallory was BFFs ever since pre-K. Okay, um, and the reasoning behind their friendship, or how their friendship came into formation and fruition, was that Mallory came up to Molly during preschool and told her that she was pretty and she was going to be her friend. And because Molly was shy back then. So ever since then, they were BFFs. Okay. Connor also knew Mallory as well before he met Molly, and that was because he is first cousins with Anthony, and they all hung out with each other. And when Molly came into the picture, or Molly became acquainted with them long enough, that's when they started dating. Cotton Top is his nickname that the Murdaugh family gave Connor. Okay. And during this particular episode, Connor was very reluctant into talking about the incident that happened, because it still affects him to this day. And rightfully so, because the Murdaughs was trying to pin the boating incident on him, far as like him being the driver, when really it was Paul. Okay. Now, Connor's parents is Marty and Christine Cook. And with Marty, he was schoolmates or classmates with Alec Murdaugh here. Okay, back in high school. So they have a history with each other. But as he explained further down within the episode, I believe it was in the second episode, that they were high school classmates, but after high school they went their separate ways, and that's just that. And then each time that they come across each other, it was more like a high and by situation, a casual conversation. All right. And then next we have Paul Murdaugh, which is him right here, this fella here, and Morgan. All right. And Morgan, her last name was Doty. All right. Her parents' name are Bill and Diane Doty. And with her parents, her father was a landscape architect design. That is what I wanted to be, as far as like my career path. But life does its thing, and I just go with the flow at this point. All right. And also the mother, Diane Doty, she is a prison nurse. Okay. She is a nurse that works in the prison system. And both of them were from Long Island until they moved to Hampton, South Carolina. Okay. And from what Morgan had explained with her background, was that they are basically a modest family, as in middle class, and they were not the drinking type of people like how the Murdaughs was, but it definitely led her to drinking, because with the Murdaughs, their Moselle compound, I'm gonna say compound, because it's just so much land that you can put multiple houses on there to where it is a compound, right? But later on, as she began to be in a relationship with Paul, that and with him already being introduced to drinking, he started drinking at 14. Then that's what encouraged her, or being encouraged some type of way, aka peer pressure, to want to indulge a little bit, or just want to have fun as well. Okay. Yeah. And let me see Molly's parents, the only one that was in this was in the second episode that showed up, as far as like Miley's parents, was Miss Gina. Okay, and that was her mother. Now, with back to Paul and Morgan's background, or just relationship in general, um they were an on and off, like a hot and cold type of relationship, as well as they grew up from different backgrounds. Paul, he is privileged with generational wealth behind, underneath his belt. And then with Morgan, she was more like the shy kid, as well as, well, she started as a shy kid, then an outsider when she started. But as she met Paul in high school in history class, that's when they connected together, as um their connection was playful. That's what drew them together, was the playful energy, especially with Paul. Also, whenever the drinking did happen, that's when Paul turned into Timmy. So Timmy was given to Paul as his alter ego, because he would do stuff with his hands, and when that happens, then that's when his friends would know, like, okay, Timmy is here. Paul is not necessarily here anymore. It's Timmy, because whenever he's drunk, he's a whole nother person, besides the Paul that is sweet and kind, and um an all around kid per se. But he was also, Paul was the black sheep of his family, because Buster here is the eldest out of the two of them, and he was walking in his father's footsteps right here, Alex, into becoming a lawyer, having all the power and the prestige and all the other mumbo jumbo. Okay, now about the town of Hampton, South Carolina, because this is basically what the first episode it was about. Mostly was just getting to know the background of each couple, getting to know the background of the parents of each couple, as well as the town that we're living in, because it is a low country area. Okay, with Hampton County, South Carolina, it is a low country type of deal. It's a small town where everybody knows each other. They also have the Watermelon Festival. So now with the Watermelon Festival, I'm gonna show y'all what that is about. So let me share that. It is called hcmelonfest.org. That is exactly where it's coming from. Okay. And the festival history, it says history highlights going back to the earliest celebrations. Amongst the best attended attractions is always Friday night street dance in Hampton, but the crowning event of every Watermelon Festival, of course, is the Miss Coastal Empire pageant. Many Palmetto State beauty has added the scenery, including the late U.S. Senator Strom Thurmond's wife, who became Miss South Carolina, Nancy Moore of Aiken, in 1966, to the 24th Watermelon Festival. In 1993, the festival expanded to 8 days, Sunday to Sunday. Opening ceremonies were coupled with a new event called Festival Family Fun Day, sponsored by the Hamilton County Chamber of Commerce, and held at the Lake Warren State Park. The expansion made Watermelon Festival the third longest festival in the state. A new beauty is picked to be queen of the coastal empire every summer, while the same old watermelon king reigns in glory. Okay. And excerpts from the Watermelon Festival by Martha B. Anderson. Hamilton County is the home of the world's original Watermelon Festival. Since 1939, the Hampton County Watermelon Festival has grown to become South Carolina's oldest continuing festival. From the beginning, it has been a celebration for and by the people of its friendly low country county. Time to the melon harvest every year. The tradition was interrupted only twice. First, during the World War One in 1943 and 1945, and again during the Korean War in 1951. So the festival has been around since 1939, everybody. That is a long periodically time. All right. So all right. So now that y'all know a little history behind the Watermelon Festival, now we can move on to the firm, as in aka the Murdaughs, because that was discussed on the documentary, was that they held Watermelon Festival, and the Murdaughs would I'm pretty sure they are big sponsors of that event with their biggest firm in the whole entire county, as well as Morgan had also mentioned that they would go in and get the alcohol from Alex's office, and they would drink amongst the lawyer's children, the partner's children that was a part of the firm. And she said the ages would be, let's just say a minor age, okay? Minor, okay? More like preteen and teenage, okay? All right, so with the firm, now we get an introduction of the firm, aka the Murdaughs. It since 1910, and I'm reading from my notes. Since 1910, the Murdaugh family began running the counties, 5 to be exact, on both sides of the courts, with civil and criminal with their law firm. Okay, and they specialize with personal injury as well. They were also founded by the great great grandfather, if you're referring to like Paul's ancestor, but if you're referring to Alex, is more like great great grandfather. Okay, by Randolph Murdaugh Sr. He served as solicitors, and solicitors are lead prosecutors or district attorney within the 14th district or circuit, and they were basically the law, because as stated before, they were able to do criminal and civil as well. With the Murdaughs, they have multiple homes, and this is like fast forward to currently with Alex and his family. They own multiple homes, especially Moselle, which is the acres and acres of land that has that they're able to go hog hunting, which was Paul's fave, catfishing, had a tractor shed out there for all their equipment, and skinning shed, multiple ponds, as well as a landing strip for the planes that they would go in and out, back and forth, to whichever destination that they were going to. Also, again, with the introduction of Buster is considered the golden child. That's how I predicted it, the way they explained that he was basically the go-to for as like following in his father's footsteps, with going to Wayford, joining a fraternity, going to law school. According to Morgan, the mother, Maggie, loved it, that Buster was following in his father's footsteps, because Paul, he didn't want it, since he was considered the black sheep. He didn't necessarily want to follow down that path. He just wanted to basically do his own thing, and I'm assuming whatever career path that comes his way, then he'll just go through it. Okay. They also mentioned that Paul loved attention, because again, as stated before, Timmy, when he got drunk or under the influence, then the alter ego of Timmy would come out. and there were occasions where people were afraid to interact with him per se, because as Anthony, the people had trouble looking at his eyes, because they would say, looks like he is about to, take me out, delete me, or whatever case may be. And Anthony is like, that's not the case. He's just trying to really understand you. Because, whenever you're under the influence of alcohol, you begin to, your vision starts to get, well, your, of course, your dictation starts to get a little slurred a little bit. And then also when it comes to processing and comprehending information, is going to be at a little bit slower than the norm time frame that you would get information and process it in your brain. So to Anthony's knowledge and concern, he was telling people, no, he's not trying to do that. He's just trying to really comprehend what you're trying to say at the time. Because what you're saying to him is going in slow motion compared to when he is sober. He is able to, process what you're telling him. Okay. He's able to comprehend what you tell him. So also there was no rehab. I thought that was strange as well. Paul also confided in his grandfather as well for everything, especially when he got in trouble. So the sequence of events would be: Paul gets in trouble, he calls grandfather calls Alex, and Alex be like, okay, we finna come up a scheme that we set up to come with the BS, and the list goes forward. When the trouble starts to happen, he seems to confide more in the grandfather than his father. That's what it was getting. That was the vibe that I was getting as they were telling the story about the family dynamics between these four, was that it seemed like they showed more love and affection and attention to Buster than they did with Paul. Okay. Because Paul was confiding more, it seemed like Paul was confiding more to the grandfather, as well as Gloria, which is the housekeeper, which it flows right into place. Okay. So with Gloria Shatterfield, she is the housekeeper, and she is basically like the second mom to Paul, and has been basically raising him ever since he was an infant. Okay. And she was the one that gave him love and affection, Paul. Okay. Even though she took care of both the kids, Buster and Paul, and she loved them as equally as her two boys. Of course, it seems like she utilized her motherly nurtureness, right, to Paul, since Buster was already getting that fully from both of his parents and not so much of Paul. So it seems like Gloria had picked up where Maggie left off, or fell short per se. And there was a key sentence or key statement that Gloria had given to Morgan at the time that she was having troubles with Paul, because like I said, they had an on and off relationship, and you're going to see why in just a few seconds. Okay. So the key advice that Gloria had provided Morgan was that it's okay to love them from a distance, but you know how he is. In other words, make sure you're good. Make sure you set those boundaries enough to where you're not going to take any BS, and also that you're not going to allow anyone run you over per se, but you know how they are. Okay, you get my drift. All right, so that segues over to the red flags, the key incidents between Paul and Morgan's relationship that that led up to the Bolden incident, that really just sealed the deal and helped her snap out of it. Okay. All right, so incident one of some red flags was was a crash on December 2017. It was during the Christmas holidays, as Morgan explained that Paul had crashed a truck in the ditch and Morgan was in the passenger side. But originally Morgan was driving and Paul was like, pull over, let me drive, I'll drive home, blah blah blah, stuff like that. And then she said everything was fine until they hit a curve too fast to where it ended up in a ditch. Okay. And so Morgan, she was calling 911 so they can get help and assistance, but he took her phone, threw that mug, and he was like, what are you doing? I'm going to call granddad. Don't call 911. We got this. I got this here. So he didn't call 911. He called his grandfather. Okay. And he was like, hey, granddad, I am in some trouble. Could you come and help me out here? And I'm pretty sure granddad was like, all right, son, bet. Click. Grandfather calls Alec. Hey, Alec. Hey, Dad. We got trouble here, Paul. He had an incident on the side of the road. I think y'all need to go check it out. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, click. All right. Maggie, let's go. We got Paul. He's in an incident. We got to go now. They arrive at the incident. Instead of them asking the question, how you doing? Immediately, they went straight towards the trunk of the car, getting all the weaponry, getting all the empty cans up out of there, and just wiping it straight up clean as if nothing had happened in the inside, or there's no sense of evidence where it could land him in the clang. Okay. So also, child, and then I believe Morgan had said Alex asked her, hey, did you call 911? And she said, yeah. And they was like, why would you do that? You're not supposed to do that. You're gonna end up getting our son in trouble. And I'm like, but y'all in an accident. And I'm pretty sure Morgan was like, but we're in an accident. That's what you call when you need help. And keep in mind, Paul is, I don't know if he was used to that. And from the sound of things, it does sound like he was used to it. But Morgan, she's not, because she is a modest middle class individual. She came up from humble beginnings. Okay. She didn't grow up on privilege and status and general wealth. Okay. And the first thing she's gonna do is call 911 for assistance. On the flip side, whenever Paul gets in trouble, he's not calling 911. He is calling his grandfather. His grandfather is calling his father. And then they're going to come up with a scheme that they all set up to come with the BS, to make it all go away. Okay? That's just how it is. Second incident was, Morgan explained, it was Buster's graduation. And her and Paul was staying in a hotel to stay, and Paul was kicking her in the bed at the time, and I don't know if it was intentionally or on accident, but I'm pretty sure it's probably like a bit of both. I'm gonna say a little bit of both, but she was telling him, hey, stop kicking me. And eventually it got to a point where he basically got on top of her and, put her into chokehold, right? And then also started screaming in her face. And I'm like, oh, and I believe he slapped her at that time. I want to say he slapped her as well, but not cool. That was the second incident. And then I don't know when Buster had graduated, but that fastest forward to the third incident, to where the boating accident happened. Okay. And before it even happened, before the boat had crashed and everything, there was arguments there was plenty of arguments on the boat before that crash happened. But for the gist of it, before it happened, Paul had got mad at Morgan for not having his back, because everybody was telling him, hey, you need to sit down and let us drive the boat. You can let Anthony drive the boat, you can let Connor drive the boat, but you are so intoxicated right now. We just want to get home safely. And then Paul was like, this is my effing boat, and nobody is not gonna touch it. I know what I'm doing. And he went over and spoke to Morgan, was like, why you don't have my back? And Morgan was like, because everybody is screaming and hollering, and we just want to get home safely. And the phrase that just really probably just put the nail in the coffin was that he told her, that's why your father is not making enough money for your family. Let that sink in. If your partner or your loved one tells you that's why your father, or that's why your mother, but more likely your father, because he is head of household and he's supposed to be the breadwinner, right? That's why your father can't make enough money for your family. That hurts. That really does. That's basically saying my family ain't ish. My daddy show ain't ish because he's not doing what he's supposed to do. Because, and I'm telling you, this all comes in full circle, because fast forward, I'm gonna give y'all a snippet. Fast forward, which y'all, if y'all already watched it, that's cool. But fast forward, that same sentence that he told Morgan, it's in his own backyard, because his mama, Maggie, had hired a forensic accountant to see to weed out the bills and figure out where the money is going, because there have been unpaid bills that have been going, there have been bills that have been going unpaid lately, and she's trying to figure out where's the root of the problem. What's the problem? Why are we going without paying bills on time? And again, like I said, that can't, you see how wordplay be coming full circle on people. The fact that Paul had told Morgan that about her father not making enough money for her family because she's not living in privilege and status like you are. And here you are on the flip side, fast forward a couple years later, your father is living up to the statement that you have spoken on to Morgan. Catch that tea, okay? Catch that tea. So that's why I say, go by the 4 agreements. Your word is impeccable. The word, just as much as words hurt, words can be sounds of manifestation, okay? All right. So, key things that I got from this incident before I give y'all the breakdown, which I'm pretty sure y'all already know this by now, but keep in mind, this is a person like me. Like, the rabbit hole goes deep like this until the trial had came about and the documentaries was floating all over the place. I said, I got to figure out what is going on. I need to see what the problem lies. And I have an idea, but that's going to be a whole separate channel and a whole separate breakdown. Okay. All right. So the key things that came from the boating accident that I had questions on was that the friend, this event, the oyster roast, it wasn't even their original event. Okay. They was really chilling at home minding their business, but due to somebody was like, hey, y'all want to come to this oyster roast, and let's see who didn't want to go. Anthony, Morgan, and Miley didn't want to go to the event, Anthony said he didn't want to go because it's too cold outside. He really want to stay home. Morgan, she wasn't even with Paul like that at the time. They was on rocky terms at the time, and she just said, I'm just going just to be with my be with my good girls, be with my good Judies. And then Molly, I forgot why Molly didn't want to go, but Molly didn't want to go neither. But and Connor, I don't know if Connor wanted to go or not originally, but I'm just gonna put him in the middle because, hey. But for the ones that wanted to go was Paul and Mallory. Paul wanted to go because, he got just that everybody else was going. And then also Mallory, she wanted to go because of the original text that Anthony had got was the person inviting them to the oyster roast, okay? To some degree, there was a little guilt trip, not even gonna lie, but with Mallory, it was on a loving aspect, like, hey, can we go? Pretty please, pretty please, pretty please. It was more like that. And Paul, he was like, hey, I know we're not on the best terms right now, because it was said on the documentary with the little text message and stuff. He was saying to Morgan, hey, I know we're not on the best terms right now, but we can go to this oyster roast. You know what I'm saying? You want to hang out? And of course, Morgan said she's agreeing to go, but she's only going to meet with her girls, Molly and Mallory. Okay, all right. So with Paul, it was more guilt tripping on Paul than with Mallory. Mallory, she wanted to go because it's a good time. Okay, she just want to go to have a good time. Now, also another key thing was people at the event had offered them to go home or to take them home, but Paul had declined to go to be taken home because it was stated that there were some roadblocks that he knew about, and that's why he took the boat originally to the spot. Because there ain't no roadblocks when you driving a boat. Okay, you hardly see the Coast Guard out there or the park rangers, doing inspections, pulling the boat over to the side, making sure you doing what you're supposed to be doing, like the roadblocks do with vehicle cars. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But yeah, Paul declined to going with other people of taking him back home because that was the reason why he drove the boat. Okay. And also another key factor was Anthony wanted to get an Uber when they made that pit stop to the Luther's bar. Okay, he wanted to get an Uber then, but he didn't want to leave everybody hanging, in Paul's I wouldn't say in Paul's possession, but he didn't want to leave anybody hanging per se. But either way it go, Paul still didn't want to leave his boat behind. And I'm like, who gonna steal your boat when you got a key? Who gonna steal your boat when you got the key? You can always buy another boat, right? I'm just saying. Those are some of the questions that I had. Okay. Also, no life jackets. I feel like even though they were good swimmers, even though all of them are good swimmers, I feel like if they had life jackets on, it's possible that Mallory could have been found earlier than expected, or it could have saved her from getting hit with that blunt force trauma that automatically knocked her unconscious to automatically drown and be swift through the currents of the water, because they said the currents were very strong that evening or evening into the early morning. They said the currents was very, very like pushy underneath that bridge. So that was another reason why when they explained that boating incident, the first thought that came into my mind was that she ended up drowning because she had to have hit something. If it was her body, maybe if it was any part of her body other than her head, she probably would have survived. But if she had her head hit while, being thrown off the boat into the water, and it is possible. I am literally visioning this in my head. It is possible that, and they showed like a biomechanical engineer concept or structure based on the boat, and people and everybody being placed on the boat as well. It is possible, since they said the current was strong that evening, that even though her and Anthony was thrown off on the boat, because since the boat had crashed and the front went down and the back went up, and Anthony and Mallory was in the back of the boat, it is possible that when they both hit the water, that she got swift under that current so fast that she hit something, which caused that blunt force that blunt hit and caused her to automatically be knocked out of conscious and drown immediately. That's the only way I can see that happening. That's the only way that I can see that happening, is her being thrown off and that current being so fast and quick that she got swept, got hit, and knocked unconscious, automatically drowned. That's the only way I can see that, y'all. Comment down below if you feel the same way. But I just truly feel that low key, no matter if they were good swimmers or not, I feel like there could have been a little bit of hope if they all had safety vests on. Her body probably would have been found a little bit quicker too. Because once you end up on, the inflation of the water vest will, help you pull up and stuff like that. Yeah, y'all. I wish they would have wore life vests during that time, even though they are good swimmers. It's just that safety, y'all. Safety is number one. But comment down below if you feel the same way. Like I said, Paul and Morgan, they weren't together like that. They were still on rocky terms at the time. Also, when the boating accident happened, Paul was in his underwear. I'm like, he go from fully clothed to just underwear on landfall. I was confused about that. The other documentary answered that question for me. The HBO Max documentary answered that question for me, because I'm like, he went for fully clothed, arguing with somebody, and the water, and no clothes but his underwear on. I was really trying to figure that out for the life of me. Okay, that's the first of the episode. That's how the episode ended, was the boat crash, and of course everybody was making landfall. As stated before, I think Mallory, Anthony, and who else was in that water? Molly, Anthony. I don't know. I don't think Molly was in the water. I think it was Connor. I want to say it was Connor, Mallory, and Anthony that ended up in the water. Even though Connor had hit something before he got in, but it may have just been Mallory and Anthony. No, I believe Paul was in that water too, because that's how he became. That's how he came out with just his underwear. Y'all, I'm confused. Okay, I'm telling you, once I seen Paul in his underwear in that video, I'm like, why is everybody else fully clothed but you not, bro? Where are your clothes at? That's what I was saying. Where is your clothes? But yeah, that concludes the first episode, y'all. What I got from this first episode so far, it was basically just a beginning of getting to know everyone that was affected by the boating incident. The Murdaughs are like agents of chaos. Well, especially Alex, bro. And he is like the agent of chaos, because you gonna see further along on the 2 other episodes of why I called him like the agent of chaos in my head. Okay. Also, the neglect and rejection led to Paul being an attention seeker. You know, the neglect of the parents. That's why I say I feel like um his love and affection came from his grandfather and Gloria more than it did with Maggie and Alex, because as the friends has stated that he loved attention. Okay. So that's what I got from that. That's just my opinion. All right. Also, the connections with law enforcement can be a dangerous game, because you don't know when it's going to hit in your backyard. That's why I stand clear and stay in my own lane. All right. And when I mean that, it can go both ways. You know, you can have connection to the law and it hits your backyard, and you cannot have connection to your to the law and it hit your backyard, and you know, vice versa. The list goes forward. Another key thing that I got from episode 1 was you can only keep so many things under the rug for so long. And also peer pressure, the fear of missing out, the substance abuse, or the how should I say it, the liquid poison consumption. Okay, that's how I'm gonna say. Because the fact that Paul has started drinking at 14, I'm like, that's, if he was in another country, that would be no problem per se, but in the US it's just like, yeah. But the fact that his parents didn't care, it just shows the enabling of it all. Because it seems like they want to be the cool parents. Reason being is because the friends also mentioned that Moselle was the place to go for as like party wise, because it was outside of the city limits. It's acres and acres of land, and you could basically do what you want on there. It was basically free will land at the end of the day. Okay. So yeah, that's what I got from episode 1 so far. Just the beginnings that led to a breakthrough for the most part. But hang tight for the second episode. Be sure to leave a comment down below on your thoughts about the first episode so far. Have you watched it? Have you didn't watch it? Did you watch the trials? Where were you when this happened? Because I kid you not, y'all, I was in a whole nother headspace during that time. Okay. But other than that, like, share, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you know the next time I upload a video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.